Welcome to the JCPS MTSS training on the Teacher Clarity Toolkit with a focus on the high-yield practice of scaffolding. I'm Matt Traskis, MTSS resource teacher with high schools.
I am Melissa Loxton, MTSS resource teacher with Elementary Zone 3.
Please take a moment to type the case-sensitive bit.ly into your web browser. This will allow you to access all the links for future reference. These are the components of MTSS, or multi-tiered systems of support. As you can see, MTSS provides multiple levels of support for all learners and aligns resources and support with our district's 6 systems for students and for teachers who deliver and support instruction. MTSS addresses academic, social, emotional, and behavioral development. It focuses on overall school improvement that is sustainable. This presentation encompasses several components, but most notably teacher support through resources to be used in the classroom, and as well as teacher professional development. Let me start by showing you the components of our department, multi-tiered systems of support known as MTSS. This concept map shows a visual of the departments within MTSS. The MTSS Academic Department provides teachers with Tier 2 and Tier 3 intervention and academic support. This department is headed by Donna Lawson. The MTSS Behavior Department, led by Sandra Hansel, supports schools in implementing school-wide behavior systems and frameworks, including PBIS and restorative practices. The MTSS Re-Engagement Department supports students who are transitioning back to their home schools from alternative settings. The goal of our department, MTSS Engagement Department, is to increase student achievement by equipping teachers with high-yield pedagogical practices to maximize student engagement. Both the MTSS Engagement and Re-Engagement Departments are led by Dr. Naomi Brahim. The point of contact for each department is located on the concept map. 6 MTSS toolkits were created to provide resources for Tier 1 instructional practices to increase student engagement and reduce unwanted student behaviors. Here are the 6 MTSS toolkits. Toolkit 1, Teacher Clarity, will be attached to this PD to be used as a resource. Overall, Teacher Clarity focuses on where students are going in their learning, how they are progressing, and where they will go next. So students are accountable then for their learning. When we think about scaffolding, we are referring to an aspect of Teacher Clarity designed to support students in reaching their learning goals. Teacher Clarity 2 has a measure of success. When it comes to scaffolding, a teacher knows that they are utilizing scaffold successfully when they provide individual support to bridge the gap of students' present and intended learning. John Hattie, author of Visible Learning, states that any tool, linguistic or conceptual, that can be used to bridge the gap for students can be considered a scaffold. He states that this engagement practice has an effect size of 0.82, making it a high-yield practice for student learning. Today, we will learn how to utilize scaffolding within our instruction. So our learning intention is we will learn how to utilize scaffolding within that instruction. The success criteria will be identified as challenging yourself to identify each part of the 3-step scaffolding process. So, why use scaffolding? Scaffolds allow the teacher to support and facilitate learning of students as opposed to being the sage on the stage, just delivering content. Furthermore, It allows teachers to individualize instruction for students that are not progressing towards mastery of any particular concept. When intentionally providing scaffolds for instruction, it is beneficial for teachers to use their experience and anticipate what content with which each student may struggle. Remember, this does not mean that you lower the rigor of the content. You teach the standard, and then scaffolds help students bridge that gap. Then once the content is identified that students will struggle, plan to introduce scaffolds specifically to bridge that anticipated gap. Over time, scaffolding will be less necessary in a classroom as students progress towards that mastery. You can use a 3-step process when designing scaffolded instruction: prompt, cue, and reteach. Prompts and cues clarify the learning intentions and success criteria, which allows students to participate in productive struggle while still providing support. Prompts utilize wait time to provide those productive struggles. These prompts are more often metacognitive. Many prompts are not specific to a grade level or content area. Some examples include, what do you already know? How will you approach this? Or what strategy will be effective? Some examples of cues include, look at your notes. What does that anchor chart tell you? Or check this part again. Reteaching should be used as a last resort. Too often, reteaching is followed with a close-ended yes-no question that does not hold students accountable for the learning or retaining the content. It's better to ask questions that provide some type of accountabilities. On the next set of slides, you'll be challenged to identify the statement, provided that it is a prompt, a cue, or a reteach statement.
What do good readers do? Is this phrase a prompt, cue, or reteach? It is a prompt. Great job. Is the following phrase a prompt, cue, or reteach? What can you try the next time you get stuck? It is a reteach. Now let's try this one. Review the worked example on page 47. Prompt, cue, or reteach. It is a cue. Remember, cues do not always have to take the form of a question. They can also be a statement. Here's another. Is this following phrase a prompt, cue, or reteach? What does this symbol mean? What does this symbol mean is a cue? How about, what is the problem asking you to do? Is this phrase a prompt, cue, or reteach? This is a prompt. Last is share what you understand now, a prompt, cue, or reteach. It is a reteach. Here are several more examples of prompts, cues, and reteach phrases. Remember, use prompts often in teaching. It allows the students to activate what they know and push them to understand the content. The next scaffold is a cue, a more specific directed support for the student to continue the metacognitive process and work toward reteaching the answer on their own. Finally, reteach statements give students who are struggling extra support to commit them to the learning while still asking them to be accountable. These statements can be provided by the teacher in both the classroom or in the virtual learning space. You may be using scaffolds in your classroom already. Guided notes or cue cards are examples. Sentence starters or visuals to begin discussions can also be scaffolds. Visuals are very easily used in classrooms or virtual spaces to begin deep conversations about content. Concept maps are a scaffold that warrants more discussion. See the MTSS engagement team's presentation on how to utilize concept maps as a high-yield practice. Some other types are handouts, explanations, and hints. As you can see by this list, there are many scaffolds that are easily incorporated into a lesson plan. Many of these can be incorporated into virtual environments as well. In any classroom, the teacher should be aware of certain considerations regarding the environment or learning community that they are helping to create. Knowing the backgrounds or cultural norms for students within the classroom will lead to more engaging and effective instructional practice. This culturally responsive approach should be utilized to reach as many students as possible in the classroom. Scaffolding, especially a modeling scaffold, is a great use of culturally responsive pedagogical technique. In classrooms where ECE students are present, some aspects of teacher clarity should be utilized more often in a classroom, based upon the needs of the learners there. These supports should be used and monitored, so that teachers can record progress of individualized learners. Scaffolds, once again, should be used to support these learners, especially cues and prompts. These tools, which give students accountability for their learning, will push ECE students forward while providing appropriate levels of aid. Teacher clarity directly relates to deeper learning or PBL projects. Clarity of intentions and success criteria lead to more robust projects and greater understanding of content for students. Scaffolding these projects gives students the necessary support to create projects that show not only the mastery of content, but also give them a real-world experience of the content. Projects that help students collaborate, think critically, innovate, or become culturally competent can also be used for backpack artifacts.
Thank you for joining us to learn more about scaffolding. For more information about the MTSS toolkits and other high-yield practices, please visit our website.